Hello and welcome everybody. Here is Roland, and on the other side of the pond.
I'm Rish. Woohoo!
And yeah, Rish has at first strange idea, but it makes so much sense, does it not? Go ahead, Rish.
All right, before someone calls me out on it, I was not the first person to suggest this idea, but I might be its largest supporter and definitely its most vocal advocate in the United States. So, some backdrops. So, the Scandinavian countries, we're all going to be NATO, we're all going to be friends. So, Finland, Sweden, Norway, and Denmark have they started talks to basically combine their air forces. They would still have their flags from their respective nations, but they would be used as a fully integrated coalition air force. Which, if you know anything about the Scandinavian countries, they all have good air forces already. Even the countries that weren't NATO, that would be Sweden and Finland. Sweden makes Saab, and they have the Griffin. Sweden is already has a world-class fighter attacker domestically made. So if you combine all their air force, they have over 200 like tippy top upper echelon tier 1 fighters, attackers, air force. They can do some damage. Now, here's what isn't my idea, but I support full-heartedly. If you're going to create an organization, it has to have a name. So since they're going to be the Viking Air Force, it's only right that they are called the Valkyrie.
Well,
Make it a thing.
um,
Oh, but they
you
are
know,
going
it
to
does
have
have
complete air dominance over their area. Russia will never be able to challenge the air superiority of the Scandinavian region if this goes through. It's
let
just
me
insane.
let me just put a couple of things out there. First of all, it makes your name makes sense from so much more than one angle. And looking at what you said, the Gripen, just the Gripen alone, not the stuff the Scandinavian countries have besides the.
Not the crappy cars.
Yeah, no. We are not talking about Volvos. We are talking about. I think it's a Saab 39 Gripen.
Yeah.
It is the cheapest multi-role aircraft to operate these days. Way cheaper than an F-18 than the latest F-18s. Yeah, and I mean worlds apart from an F-35. So you are
Right.
talking about
Well, in the
a
fourth
force
generation class, I mean, it's
4.5. Please, let's
yeah,
be
like
precise here.
fourth plus plus.
Yeah.
In America, instead of giving it the decimal system, when we add pluses, I think we actually have one block chain of the F-16 that's coming out. Or no, it's the F-15, the newest variants that's considered 4 plus plus plus. We just keep
Yeah.
adding plus signs. Your
Well,
model makes way more sense. It's tangible. It's quantifiable. It's a
here's an idea
ratio.
about metrification of the United States.
I'm actually
Um,
for that too. I'm
I'm,
for the metric system. I've lived outside America.
you
The
know,
metric system is great. I love it.
before we go off grid here, let's
Okay,
do an episode about all the stuff that makes sense that you agree to as an American that are
dude,
not happening in America.
that episode is coming soon. It's going to be Ask an American, does he actually agree with the rest of the world or what we're doing because we can? I will totally
Right.
do this, especially when it comes to agriculture going across the NAFTA borders, having to translate your agriculture, your grains. It has to go through 3 different translations.
Right. Back to the J39.
We're excited.
Um,
We're excited. We got some stuff coming.
Well, the exciting thing about that is, well, the response from the Russians. I read it this morning, and I couldn't really make it out. So basically, the Russians have threatened Sweden with complete annihilation if they join NATO. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. So yeah, something like that. So if anybody has a magnifier, please send it
You know,
to the
they said
Kremlin.
what? Eh.
So literally, you have a force that is essentially cheaper to operate than even the Russian shit. Yeah, and we are talking about shit compared with state of the art 4.5 or 4 plus 4 plus plus generation multi-role aircraft. Yeah, that
Yeah.
can be employed
Fighter,
in
interceptor, bomber,
fighter,
attacker,
interceptor, ground attack. So
close air support.
the other thing that the Russians don't consider is learning from the 39-40 Winter War. You can't go through Finland with an armored force. Period. Yeah. So there is so much swamp and lakes going on in Finland in that border area. You won't drive an armored force through there. So
And
and
I know some Finlanders because America's the great melting pot. According to every Finlander, both of them, two males, last name Barry, but they are staunchly adamant, even after becoming Americans, that part of Russia is Finland.
yep.
And it will be Finland again. And I've seen these guys drink and I've seen these guys fight people. I think they might mean it.
Fun fact: if Finland were go to war today, Finland can put more trained soldiers in the field than Germany, France, and the Benelux countries together.
Oh, Germany, it's 100,000.
Yeah, that's what we have. What we apparently have trained and ready, but we are not talking reserves, and things might change in Germany or in Europe as a whole. Another news piece this morning was the former Secretary of Defense, now head of the European Union, Ms. von der Leyen, said the relationship with China, open bracket Russia, close bracket, needs to be reevaluated, which is basically code for yeah, we are ready for the challenge. And look at it from this point of view. For 40 years, the Germans knew that any major land war in Europe would be fought in Germany. We are lucky enough that that war would be fought in Poland, Belarus, and Ukraine. It hasn't changed the idea of we don't want war, but hey, if you want it, we are ready to give it to you. And even the Americans that were stationed in Germany maintained that, well, if you want to counterattack after the Russians are coming, use the Germans. Yeah. So really, it is a situation that both, and I want to extend this into to recap on the visit between Putin and Xi Jinping, is that
Oh,
both
I got some
countries.
stuff to say about that.
Oh, there's something going on with the commentators, but I think they both realize they have grossly miscalculated the response of the world to their actions. And looking at that in context, the comments are basically going on about how the relationship has reversed, that Putin is now the vassal of Xi Jinping, and that both sides don't really want this alliance, but are
It's
stuck
no,
with it. Yeah,
okay, press
yeah,
pause. They do not have an alliance. And this is where I
yep,
wanted, that's why I popped up when you started talking about diplomatic code words. The CCP and Putin, they don't have an alliance. They have a strategic partnership, which is an alliance. If you listen to Americans talk about the French as far as alliances, we say the French are our first ally, our oldest ally. We call, even with two wars against Great Britain, our closest friend and cousin. These
yep,
are the ways that we talk about our allies. These are nice words and gestures talking about the history of an alliance.
yep.
Many nations do that. When you say you have a strategic partnership, that means you don't want China
You're a
to
convenient
invade
idiot.
Siberia,
Yeah, but
because
that's what they're up
Siberia,
to.
China would have the whole lock, stock, and barrel. before
That
they
is
could
what I
get a
was going to
train
say.
there with a guy with some binoculars
Yeah.
going, yeah, no, it's for real. It's really happening. Somebody call somebody.
That is what I was that is what I was gonna say. That Putin is very, very wary about this, and that economically, large parts of Siberia are already dependent on China. So look at it from this point of view. With the Indians on the mountaintops in the Himalayas, they just put their soldiers closer, closer, closer until they are right in front of each other. The Indians haven't moved. The Chinese have moved all the way and say, why are you getting so close? And I mean, China and Russia, loads of people don't know that, but in the 60s, they almost fought a nuclear war with each other. So about exactly that region that we're talking about right now. So really,
Well, Siberia, I
such
mean,
a
to
thing.
Russia, it's a port. It's some natural resources that they don't have the capital to build the infrastructure
Yep.
to adequately, get not only their investment, their initial infrastructure investment, but they don't have enough money to create business opportunities that are self-sustaining in that region.
The problem with that is, and
They got a port
it's
and no
not
railroad.
only look when you look at the geography of Russia, the real action, the stuff, is west of the Ural Mountains. East of the Ural Mountains is f all compared to the west.
Well, it's
And when
different
you
ethnically, and I mean, it's just a different place in every sense of the world.
yeah,
Different people, different cultures.
that's
Some parts, different
that's one
religions.
part, yes. And literally, there was during the Cold War. I mean, with the advent of ICBMs, there was absolutely no point developing even more targets for the Western missiles, right? At the same time, you have areas where you still have factories that can churn out a decent amount of weapons that are not immediately reachable unless it is with a nuclear strike. Yeah. So, and speaking of which, you may or may not have seen the news that the Russians are rolling old T-55s out of storage
And T-54s.
to replace their artillery pieces
Hey,
in
excuse you, they
Ukraine.
have been modernized.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Look, let me put it that way. If you are coming with an M16 and I'm coming with a modernized T-55 AM, yeah, I'm the one that's coming out as the winner. So
Uh-huh.
as I keep saying, yes, they may be old, they may be 10,000 old rusty T-55s, but they still have a 100 millimeter gun, which is a credible threat
No,
against a lot
no,
of targets.
but this is no. My outlook is they're running out of artillery ammunition.
Yeah,
They can use the T-54s and T-55s as artillery platforms that use a different type of ammunition that they can source throughout places they've exported their war products to and people who have
yeah.
bought the Russian philosophy on warfare. They can pull these stockpiles of stuff that's never going to get used because the countries that have it now, it's garbage basically.
Yep.
They'll take ruble. They will take rubles for it. Oh, you want to
This
buy this artillery back? We'll take rubles, sure. Because they know it's just going to sit out there until some kid trips over it, like all the landmines that they left, and now you got a crater.
So really, this is a thing. The problem again is people not thinking through is you have an artillery piece that can shoot 100 millimeter or 155 millimeter out a certain distance.
Right, because those are
The
smoothbore, right?
I don't know about the T-54 55s, but they should have smoothbores. Yes. So we're talking about smoothbores, and the longest tank on tank kill is just over 5 kilometers, if I remember right. I do know that the Russians have missiles for their tanks, also for the
Mhm.
T-55s, yeah, which are not usable in, well, basically they are anti-tank missiles that they are firing through their gun, and it really wears out the barrel pretty
Yeah, we
much.
just put those on Humvees and just
Ooh.
destroyed armored divisions. Ask Saddam. Oh wait, that's right.
We tried that kind of stuff with the M60A2. We put a 152 millimeter gun combined with missile launcher on the M60A1 hull, and yeah, we pretty quickly upgraded it to the A3 version, which had a gun again. So
But I mean, you saw how effective when Schwarzkopf during the first Gulf War, when Schwarzkopf did that Alexandrian wheel maneuver and then just crashed on that flank.
well, with
Humvees were taking
I want
out
to tell you a
modern day
story
tanks from the at the time the fourth largest military on the planet. We were taking
at
out
that
their
time, yeah.
tanks with trucks. I mean
And
Humvees, but
look,
essentially a
look,
truck.
what happened during Desert Storm? What happened during Desert Storm? I want to tell a different story, but essentially the same thing that happened. When the Tiger appeared on the Eastern Front, the Tiger was able to shoot through not one, but two T-34s and knock out the third.
Yeah,
So this is how
Germans didn't do much
powerful,
better.
yeah. So I mean, really, this is the kind of thing. When you look at it, the T-34 was not a really good tank. It was produced in masses that even the Sherman, yeah,
It
okay,
was the
maybe the
tank
Sherman,
they had to produce.
yep, they could own. Well, they could have produced a number of different tanks, and this is what the Germans did. The Panzer III, Panzer IV, Panzer V, and I think until end of 44 they kept producing either Panzer IIIs or Panzer IVs, and then only did Panzer Fives and Tigers. So, and looking at the effectiveness, there's now people saying that it would have been better if you had just kept producing Panzer IVs. So, but we've gone a long way from
We often
NATO
do.
and Russia. So, but the thing is, the threat of the Scandinavian air forces or the Scandinavian countries joining NATO or even just combining
Valkyrie,
forces, yeah, is so great to the
Viking Air
Russians.
Force.
And I would surmise or propose that up there the Russians are basically naked at this moment. They still have their forces in Siberia because China, yeah, they
Uh-huh.
have nothing. They have nothing in terms of border with Kazakhstan, yeah, not much at least. And I don't think they have many credible forces except where they really, really need them as strategic strong points.
Yep.
Everything is in Ukraine.
But tell you, as far as the Air Force, Finland can produce mobile airfields if they're used to their jets. They could forward stage jets. And don't forget, Sweden's got an unsinkable aircraft carrier just right off Kaliningrad.
Yeah. Look, this is this is really a kind of thing where I say the world has gone through a paradigm change. Yeah. After the Cold War, we were all happy, all buddies. Yeah. And turns out, no, we were
And
not.
turned from violence for the
Yeah.
most part. Now it
So
seems like people are craving it.
it's
Let's shake up the bag.
this. It does feel a bit like it that people are going crazy for some action. Yeah. Not understanding perhaps that any sort of action will produce misery not seen in our lifetimes. I mean, we see pictures of kids starving in Africa. We see
No,
pictures live. No, what I mean is we
World
see
War III
pictures
would
of,
cause an evolutionary bottleneck in the Homo sapiens species, as well as many other species if we go full
depends
nuclear.
on how well depends
The
on how they're
genetic
fighting
makeup
it.
of the entire world will go through a bottleneck as if an asteroid had hit.
if we are really going all the way, we are talking about the end times. Yeah. But I'm talking about conventional mechanized war.
Yeah, it's coming back. It's
So
coming back into favor.
it's so um, I
Hey,
am.
hey, those 20 years we were in the Middle East, we never. Now the Gulf War, yeah, but when we were in Iraq the second time in Afghanistan, there wasn't any of these great tank battles there was in the first Gulf War. But I think tank battles are going to come back into fashion.
But that really depends on where. And again, I keep saying,
Ukraine, Poland, there.
well, one would hope not Poland, because that's awfully close to home. Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, this is where I'm saying World War One was the better choice, where the destruction was not in my home country. Yeah. But obviously, Belgium and Northern France got done over quite well. Yeah. They have areas in France where you still can't go, with the risk of rotting ammunition blowing you up with no notice. Yeah.
That's funny. I walk around
But
this great country of mine. I've never seen evidence of World War One or World War Two, but growing up
I
in the
wonder
South,
why.
I did see plenty of evidence of the Civil War, the war
Yep.
between the states. But World War One and Two over here, we
You
wasn't
see, and
on
this is
fire,
what people
buddy.
don't understand. They
Well,
would
but
not
see, it
understand.
desensitizes you because you see it on
Yeah.
TV.
That is one level of
That's not my neighbor.
desensitization.
That's not my
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Exactly. It is not
Yeah, let's
your
send
home.
Ukraine more guns. Let's
Yeah.
keep the war going. Yeah, sure.
So that is something where I say I don't. Well, this is literally an advantage the Russians always had. There is not much to destroy, and the communist ideology, to speak about World War II and the Cold War, is essentially nihilistic, as in terms of nothing means anything. So people that are drafted into the army, they don't have an outlook of, well, I will serve half a year, 2 years, yeah, or until the war is over, and then go home. They have the outlook, well, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
So that is potentially an advantage, but do not discount that particularly Eastern Europe, who has been under the Soviets, under the Russians for 40, 50 years, yeah, and they don't want to repeat that experience, yeah.
Almost 70.
So looking at what, yeah, when you look at the Baltic states, yeah, absolutely. So
But see, when I think of 20 years ago, I'm thinking of the 80s.
yeah, me too.
That's not 20
It's
years ago
crazy. Yeah,
anymore.
it's crazy how time has gone by. And you see, this is another thing I wanted to raise for a couple of times, is when the Cold War ended, we all went so comfortable. Yeah, shit gets produced in China. The Russians are now our friends and give us oil. So we have nothing to do, and that is what we did.
The American
Nothing.
Navy made sure that the shipping lane stayed open for everybody who wanted.
Yeah, and this is now abruptly being challenged and coming to an end. So
America's going to be okay. North America is very resilient when it comes to manufacturing. I mean, I'm really saying you cannot
with
discredit the
relocation
Mexicans.
to Mexico of some of the stuff,
Yeah.
yes. And I say another year or two, and the Americans don't have to give a damn. The problem is that you guys probably should be giving a damn, because, well, it's also about us. Yeah, in Europe, we are talking about a civilization that is built, or let's say two blocks of ideology. One being built on a very nihilistic model of governance and outlook in life, where ultimately one person gets to decide everything, and on the other hand, a system that has massive flaws. There's no denying that, but also has built into it the ability to correct itself. So, for example, if we elect a bloody idiot that's running the country in the ground, we vote him out the next time we have the chance. Yeah. So that is not possible. And when you are when you are in a system that is essentially dictatorial, you can have 100 or 1,000 really great dictators doing lots of things positive for the people. It's one person that can ruin the whole show. And I had this discussion with my wife last night and this morning about how the narrative on TV in China is very different from the official statistics that is being published. And people are so used to accepting the news they like to hear instead of looking at, well, what is really happening. So what is really happening is loads and loads of what we would call them migrant labor in the Western world. Basically, people that are coming to, say, a farm, work and get paid at the end of the day. F off, if you don't come tomorrow, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
don't call in sick.
yeah, there is a huge migrant labor force on whose back the Chinese dream has been built. Yeah. And these people are now basically out of job because nothing is produced for export.
And I have a plan to fix it for North America too.
So I mean, on one hand, this is the problem of the Chinese model of governance. They can't transition to a US like consumption and services driven economy, because that would inevitably undermine the ability of the Chinese Communist Party to control people. So they are stuck with the economy in manufacturing. And if nobody buys their stuff, well, there goes your business model. That's it. Yeah. So you can try to sell that stuff to the Russians. Well, good luck, because they don't have money. Right. So you can trade that stuff.
Well, they have it. It's just materials. A little frozen.
Yeah, it's rather cold, and it's rather cold up there. But the point is, even that partnership of convenience, if you like, you give us oil, we give you manufactured goods, is at some point coming to the end. So there is really I want to say there is an end to that relationship. Yeah. And that will get me over to the peace deal China brokered between Saudi Arabia and Iran. But you wanted to say something.
Oh, no, I was saying that I've actually, now this isn't my area of expertise. I just approach things as my background's construction. See a problem, come up with a solution. If that doesn't work, keep tweaking it till we can get something running. I actually have like a skeleton level plan, or I guess it would be more like an outlook of how North America could be just set. And it would actually solve the immigration problem. It would solve security concerns, and it would also solve narco violence.
I'm all ears. I'm always open for plans,
So, wonder how long this will take. We're 31 in. Yeah, here, let's go. So, of course, since it's going to be North America, America is going to need to play a key part in this one. So what we do is the tech stuff. Let's keep our partnerships in the Far East Asia. Let's keep our partnerships in Southeast Asia. We've devoted so much of our time and effort into that area. We've built lasting friendships and partnerships. Let's keep those. So the things that aren't those partnerships, and I'm talking about the partnerships with Japan and South Korea and the Philippines and Taiwan and Australia, Malaysia, Singapore. I don't mean China. I actively am trying to cut them out completely.
That feeling is mutual.
So here's what we do. So we keep those relationships. So for the remainder, anytime you hear me bring up Asia, we're keeping all of our strategic relationships and true partnerships where it is 50-50. Keep all that. Okay, so that's going to line up a lot of our tech right there. So we help with the tooling. We bring the high-end manufacturing to the high end of North America. That's Canada, and let's get US in there. Let's get the really good mid-level stuff. Let's produce that in Mexico. And as America, as North Americans, let's help this process. So then let's tool up the Central American countries, which have less infrastructure. Let's tool them up for some of the lower stuff. And it's basically like a starter kit to create new industry. So you get that. Now, there's going to be the reason why we can't do that. It's too many security concerns. So with us not having the overseas obligations that, have taken up so much of our budget for all these years so that the world could be a safer place and, global harmonization would actually work. Since we're going to pull back from that, it already looks like we're pulling back from that anyway, because we're just sick. We're tired. We're fed up. We still have these units. We still have these commanders. We still have these assets. We help train up the security forces in all of the countries to a universal standard, the North American standard. So you get them paid, and that way, and you got to start stamping out corruption. You bring money in, you bring all these resources that you were spending somewhere else. This is just reallocating the same resources. So it's not going to cost any additional money because we're already borrowing tons. We're pulling the money out. We're pulling the troops out. This is just redistributing them to where I feel would help us better. So as the infrastructure in North America and the manufacturing gets more skilled, more fine-tuned, there's going to be less people that need to turn to drugs. There's going to be more people getting honest day's work. The countries are going to have a higher GDP. There's going to be spillover economy growth in most sectors due to, if nothing else, just the infrastructure and the ease of access to actually get to these places with reliable infrastructure, with roads that are patrolled, and countries that are either safe or becoming safer because of the standard of the security forces for the North American agreement. So that's like the skeletal outline of my plan, and you just keep trucking until you get to like a Colombia.
Guess what?
Colombia is not going to need as much help. And there's going to be, if you can make it to Colombia, you're going to open up more natural resources, a big population, and a stable population. Good demographic.
I would say a lot of the stuff you're saying, and I think that is basically already in the backpack with the marching orders, with deploying a lot of the manufacturing that the North Americans need in electronics, home electronics, for example.
We need someone up front selling it. We need to sell it like we sold the American dream to the baby boomers. We need that whole, and I was not saying let's create suburbia in Nicaragua. Okay, what I'm saying is we need someone who's as good as selling the American dream to the baby boomers, someone who's got that level of oratory presence or skill. We need that guy or gal or person, whatever, out front selling this to the people like, hey, America, we might have been a little condescending. We kind of looked down on y'all, but look, instead of helping you just because we're tired of everybody coming here, look, let's just create something that's going to be where this whole continent just flourishes. It's not a handout, it's a hand up. Like,
it is.
Let's actually try to help our neighbors for once, not just when it suits us. Let's actually try to help them.
I hear you. And once that
and not to become us,
Mexico,
to be them.
Yeah. Not once that starts with Mexico, and once people see, well, the Americans are basically integrating their whole supply chain to local, because that's what it's gonna end up with. Well, we want a piece of that cake too. Or we have to get rid of the cartels, for example. Done.
Hey, let's start building a road towards Mexico City. If you live in Guatemala or Belize, let's start building a road. We know it's by the time we're done with the road, the money will be coming back with the guys who built it going that way. They'll all be coming home.
That is the thing. You need to invest. You need to invest a crap ton of money to make.
Oh no, this will not be cheap.
So, and looking at
trillions.
Yep. On the other hand, there will be relatively fast a lot of return from that. Yeah. Now, what was I raising
But you're
about?
making all these countries safer, where people don't have to flee these gangs and this violence and this deplorable poverty and living in huts.
Well,
Everyone could have
exactly.
a the no, my goal, the whole goal of my plan is not for America to get less immigration. The actual goal of my plan is for the standard of living in North America to be the standard for the entire world, as far as economic prosperity, growth potential, and healthcare, education. Just
And see, and
really creating a powerhouse,
this is
a stable
exactly
powerhouse.
what this was all about for these years, the American dream. Yeah, this is why people went across the ocean in the early 1900s. But going back to what we said earlier, um, the situation specifically in Asia is, well, we will have or we will have to secure those ends in South Korea, in Japan, and my thinking of how this strategy might work out, we would, or Americans would be needing to base a significant amount of troops in Thailand, because Thailand is currently building a manufacturing base for export. India is in the south building this manufacturing base. Vietnam already has one. So the key
Watch
thing,
this.
the key thing is we are moving away rapidly from any supply chain integration with China or Russia. I mean, the Russians are already out. They never were really part of it. But in China, the problem is that the migrant labor force, they can't find jobs. They tried. Well, the first thing they did is, well, online shopping is such a great business. Online shopping for food, online shopping for takeaway food, normal online shopping where you buy stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
And again, I have to say this: the Chinese eBays and Amazons have built a fantastic infrastructure. They are on the backs of their delivery drivers. Yeah, that's not to say. But if I order something today, I can reasonably well expect it to be with me tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
So
now you
let me finish this thing. What they are moving, this migrant labor force is moving to delivery drivers and is upset and posting videos online. Well, we are not making any money here. There are no orders. Domestic consumption, forget about the data that is being published, but domestic consumption in China is collapsing. Okay, sorry.
no, I
Go
was just
ahead.
answering because like you said, factories are going up in places that aren't China or Russia, and you said, you might have to put troops. The advantage of, haven't named it yet, call it the North American Trade Alliance, the North American Trade Group, the North American Commerce for Society and Benefit of the Arts. It doesn't matter. If you have to secure anything overseas, domestically or abroad, if you have to secure any of the ports or resources and you're invited by the host country, now instead of America doing it all by ourselves, the North American, whatever you want to call it, where we're all working together here, different countries, but like some kind of like European Union or something, North American Union, don't care. It can be unoriginal. Then you've tripled the population.
Yeah.
So if people need to go, now instead of an American being the face, some guy who looks like me except for shaven, maybe with a little squared more shoulders, a soldierly look to him.
Yeah.
Instead of that being the face of North American trade to the rest of the world, it might be someone who's got a tan. It might be someone who's shorter and ethnically looks nothing like me. It might not be a
Yeah.
tall looking European. It might be a shorter, like Mayan or Aztec, they didn't grow as tall and they have darker skin tones.
Yeah.
That if those descendants are still there, so if they're the ones manning the post in a mix with Americans, Canadians, and Mexicans, which vary, then the face of our organization is this multicultural thing. It's not America, the big bad
Yep.
guy. It's this other. It's something different because
Yep.
America
This
comes
really
with
is.
a reputation.
Yeah.
We're asking America to secure our port. No, we're asking the North
No.
American Union to help us with trade concerns,
Well,
security stuff.
Since I was raising this Iranian Saudi Arabia thing, how long do you think that understanding between those countries is going to last? Will it see the next Christmas?
Okay, I don't think they care when the next Christmas is, but I think that partnership will last about as long as it takes for someone to bring up a certain cousin. And after that, I don't see a lot of friendship because they always talk about a certain cousin and then nobody gets along and here comes the bombs.
Well, the thing I see is the Chinese attempt as displaying themselves as the broker, is not going to work. So peace with Chinese characteristics. My bet is, well, at first I wanted to say it won't last until Christmas, but as you said, they don't care when Christmas is.
It won't last till Ramadan either. Okay, any cultural.
I don't. To be honest, I don't know when that is. I suspect it will end when or just before the Iranians want to go public and say we have the bomb. And it could go either way. The Saudi Arabians might be enticed to do something militarily.
Right.
The Saudis might be enticed to say, well, we have a couple of bombs more than you. So if the Saudis want the bomb, they're just going to buy it.
And just for the record, Ramadan is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. Just throwing that out there while we move on.
I still have no idea how that translates into my white supremacist calendar, but you see, I'm
well,
not
I guarantee you the Saudi Arabian Arab supremacists are going to have a serious problem when Mr. Ayatollah Iran over there is saying we got a nuke. That's what you were saying. That might be a deal breaker.
That will be a deal breaker because, like you said,
and Israel's going to say, "Where are you keeping it? We'll drop off flowers."
Well, I don't think the Israelis need to ask where it is.
You know what I meant.
But there's a couple of things you don't screw around with, and one of them
is Israel.
One of them is Israel. Period. I was about to say the Mossad, but the Mossad in particular. But look, again, this is the kind of thing. This is, for me, it is really a distraction from what's really going on. So first of all, if you look into the broader perspective,
that's been going on for years.
China, Russia, you just say no, really no, yeah. When you only look at Saudi Arabia, Iran, you say no, yeah. So really, this is how do I say this? This is really just putting up a nice picture for everybody to see, while the actual issue is not being talked about. And
look at my pretty curtain. There's nothing behind it.
Well, I can see the motivation of Saudis to do that is to get the Americans to renew and extend their security commitments in the Middle East. But as we discussed a couple of episodes ago, the Americans could care less about the Saudis and their oil. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
what we did care about is when they didn't let us know that they were going to murder someone in a NATO country and totally get caught.
I think that is my opinion, just a political convenience to use that kind of thing as a reason. But looking at
Oh, dude, the Saudis totally killed that guy in Turkey.
absolutely, there's no doubt
That
about
guy
it.
died violently.
Come on. There is no such. Well, in Russia, they say there is a lot of people slipping and falling into the same knife 27 times. Yeah.
Dude, in America, we had someone commit suicide by shooting himself at a downward angle in the back of the head twice.
It is those things. And really, for me, that friendship or peace treaty is simply, in my own terms, not worth the paper it's going to be printed on. So,
yeah, but do you think Sunnis and Shiite are finally going to put away, the sword, so to say, because of Iran and Saudi Arabia?
This has no implications for the rest of the world.
The Ottomans couldn't stamp it down when they controlled the whole damn thing.
So, and I mean, the Iranian motivation is literally, if we can influence the Saudis in any way, that's good for us.
Mm-hmm. We did that. Look at us.
The Saudis are like, well, if the Americans are not renewing their security commitment, we have some serious concerns about going to war with Iran. Let's not do that. And let's send a message to the Americans, we can do that without you. So I don't, when was that? A year or two ago, when the Saudi Air Force was doing airstrikes somewhere without the Americans?
Yemen.
No,
so in Yemen, there's the proxy war in Yemen, and it's the Saudis and the UAE funding one side, and it's Iran funding the other side. Well, the Saudis did airstrikes with munitions provided by the United States, and that was not in accordance with what we told them our level of commitment to the conflict would extend to. Because basically they killed a bunch of civilians. I mean, they killed a bunch of who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy? I don't know. I've never been to Yemen. Okay.
No. This is again. This is exactly
all we know is the U.S. bombs killed a lot of innocent people, and we went, oh, whoa, no.
Yep. I mean, this all runs together. Like I said, there is. Especially, Trump was quite outspoken about it, that he is not a fan of American soldiers dying for and in other countries. Yeah, which is per se understandable. Absolutely. I mean, how would I feel about that? How would anyone feel about that? So,
let me ask you a question. How many Saudi jets, how many Saudi bombers, how many Saudi air bases are there? How many Saudi infantry are boots on the ground in their own country, and how much are we providing? I think that's where we start to get a little,
don't ask me for exact numbers, but
I guarantee you ours is more.
But there is, if you ask me about South Korea, I think that's 48,000.
No, South Korea has capitulatory service, just like Finland, and Germany got rid of it. Now you don't have compulsory service anymore, do you?
Going back to what I said, we don't have compulsory service right now.
South Korea.
And we struggle to find enough volunteers. So there has been debate for the last 3, 4, 5 years to bring back conscription. So, and I actually do see that coming, that people are, I mean, the big problem was I could have been drafted still when they abolished it. Yeah,
Oh,
I was basically at the end of the age bracket. I think it's 26 or 28. So I was still within reach. However, this only applies in peacetime. There is, I think, the limit for conscription in wartime, and wartime is whenever the government tells you to. That can be extended essentially to, I think, 40, 45. So really, again, during the Cold War, no West German person, yeah, especially males, had any idea of well, this is not going to affect me. We knew it would, yeah.
uh-huh.
And if push comes to shove, we have, I don't know how many old assault rifles in our arsenals, maintained
There's some
now
buddies.
regularly.
There's some old 7 mils.
We do have those. No, I'm
No,
not
I know
joking.
you do because
I'm not joking.
in America, we have something called CNR eligible. CNR is Curio and Relic. That is a firearms designation. Well, it's a designation for many things, but you can have a CNR eligible firearm. And we have this huge market where you get M9130 Mosin Nagats from Soviet era Russia. We got the round receiver and the hex. We'll get the old Swiss rifles. We get the old Mausers from Germany. We have a straight pull Swiss, which is just weird to us. But no, we actually, there's got to be these rifles just sitting around because
Yep.
to make money on sending them to America and selling them at CNR, which most of those, like I can buy a crate of 20 Mausers for like $1,000.
Yep.
It's very cheap.
Look, the Mauser was
So they got to be everywhere
rifle.
because they're so cheap here, and we're half a world away.
Yep. No, look at it. Look at it from this point of view. At that stage, the first ish. Well, no. Interestingly.
And why did you
the
get rid of
first
the H&K? Why are you all getting a new rifle? Sorry.
different story. But I was just gonna say we still have in our arsenals a couple of M1 Garants that you Americans provided us for free
Yeah.
when we set up our army again. But speaking of the new rifle, in the 80s, the Germans, well, it started in the 70s, I think. The Germans were developing a new rifle called the
Quick question.
G11.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Did y'all ever use the FAL, or were you
I
steadily developing your own stuff?
I think we did use the FAL, but as
Okay.
the G2, the G1 was the Garand, the G2 was the FAL, and
M1.
very quickly, yes, the M1 Garand. And the G3, the service rifle 3, was the standard service rifle until the 90s, early 90s.
Okay.
And that the G3 is basically it's very similar to the it's all HK, of course.
Yeah, it's got the top loading where you
Yep.
pull the receiver back, put it over,
Yep.
smack it back, ram
Yep.
it through. Yeah, direct gas.
So it is essentially the M14 equivalent for Germany. Yeah.
Okay.
So and basically we came to the same conclusions that that firefights between armed forces are within the range of 300 meters, basically. Yeah. And the 7.62 caliber is very much overlabored. Only really specialized troops like snipers, which need the weight of the bullet, or a machine gun that needs the volume of fire, can really benefit from a larger caliber. So we went to 5.56, and in Germany we developed a rifle.
But you just talked about two different 7.62 calibers though. The snipers would have been using the 7.62 by 51 NATO, which is a 308 Winchester, where guns use a 7.62 by 39, which is the same thing at AK-47 would shoot. So those are actually two different variants.
No,
of
the
the 7.62.
AKs use a different caliber. The AKs use a different caliber.
AK-47s use 7.62 by 39. AK-74s use 5.45 by 39. Swear to God.
No,
I got one.
Yeah, the bullets are. You are correct. It's the same caliber, but not the same length. So
right, the sniper is
what would
551
happen?
millimeters.
No,
The assault rifle is
not that.
30.
I don't mean that. Essentially, what I was told is that the Russians could use ammunition they find in the correct caliber, but we couldn't use their bullets.
No, see, that's the third. So, okay, let me school you. All right, so the Russian M9130, that's the Mosin Nagant. That's the Soviet, the Imperial. That shoots a 7.62 by 54 millimeter. The US and the NATO snipers use a 7.62 by 51 millimeter. So theirs is too long to go into ours. Ours is shorter by 3 millimeters, so it can go into theirs.
Okay.
But now an AK-47 shoots a 7.62 by 39 millimeters. An AK-74 shoots 5.45 by 39 millimeters. And their version of the 1911, the Tokarov shoots a 7.62 by 25 millimeters. So but our machine guns use the 7.62 39. That's your squad automatic.
Yeah. Okay. No, then I've been told wrong. So
well, there's a lot of the 7.62 class, like they love the projectile and they just kept making it longer or shorter.
Yep.
And either rounding it for a pistol or honing it for a rifle. But yes, that's the reason why you're confused. So the big boy Russian 7.62 is by a 54 caliber. And if you ever put one in one of them old Russian bolt action rifles, you better be ready because that thing gonna kick.
Be 1 sec.
Doing research?
Yeah, I had a couple of emails that I needed to have a look at, but nothing of immediate action. I was at the end of the 80s. Well, basically, it started in the 70s that we developed what would become the G11, Hector and Koch G11, which is, if I'm not mistaken, is a 4.7 millimeter rifle. And basically, what we looked at
5.7
was
5.7.
No, definitely not 5.7. It was definitely 4 point something. And our rationale was we want to.
What was it called?
Give the soldier G11, G11. Is essentially what happened is we built a rifle.
It's a 4.73 by 33 caseless. Wow, y'all were using that? Yeah, it's for the guys out in the internet land, it's a 4.73 by 33, which is just very specific. Caseless ammunition used in the G11 rifle.
Yep. So essentially,
that is crazy.
Yep, it was a very sophisticated weapon.
Dude, this thing looks like what's that really movie great. On Mars with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yep.
This looks like it's from that Total Recall.
Yeah. It was really a very, very advanced rifle. Wow. And the bullets, you have, I think, 300 or 500 bullets in the butt of the rifle. So we have
it can shoot 460 rounds a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Accuracy was really good, and we had spent 9 million Deutschmark at that point, and then said, nah, we don't need a new rifle as the Cold War has ended.
Yeah, well, I found out why they stopped using the G11 because it was caseless. They were having at high rates of fire, they were having rounds cook off. And
that was actually brought under control later on. So I mean, obviously,
I didn't scroll that far in the article.
if you don't have a case, if you don't have a brass case, a lot of heat, is going into the rifle, heats up the rifle, and then it starts cooking off. So What? Yeah. So basically, at the end of when the Cold War came to an end, we said, well, yes, this is a great rifle. It's ready for deployment, but we ain't gonna do it. So then we went to Heckler and Koch and said, well, we still want a rifle with a smaller caliber so we can carry more ammunition.
The 43, HK
Nope,
43,
nope. We developed the HK 36 in
36.
several versions, and essentially that rifle has been upgraded until very, very recently. And the German government did not invest in any of these upgrades. So in Afghanistan, there was several complaints that the rifle wasn't very usable. So I don't want to go into the details or take any sides whether it is actually the case. Yeah, the people that I know that have fired the rifle and used it in combat say it's a good rifle. So
Yep, it replaced the G3 in
yep,
1997, and they're
yep,
saying they're still
complete
using it, and it
replacement.
uses the standard 5.56 by 45 NATO, same as the M4 carbine.
Yep.
It's a
So
great looking rifle. I love the carry handle, always have.
yep.
That's real popular. Every time, see, our terrorists before 9/11, all our terrorists in our movies used to be German. So we used to get these really cool German guns that no one had ever seen before in our action movies. But then 9/11 happened, and now all of our terrorists in our movies are brown. But they used to look like you.
Well,
And they
there
were
may
always
be
named
reasons.
Hans or Siegfried.
Yeah, you do
Apparently,
know
that's all we
that
think Germans are named. It's like the
fun.
one we don't say, Hans and Siegfried.
Well, fun fact. After the law was changed, who can be president? Yeah. So
Yeah.
essentially, my friend told me, well, now you only have to be an American citizen for 20 years, except if you are Austrian. We have bad experience with that. So, but speaking again of rifles, we are now changing. Well, the first selected rifle was a different manufacturer, not Heckler and Koch, and there has been ongoing legal battle. So the German government just decided, well, we just buy, just like the French, just like a couple of other countries, buy the HK 416. So it's basically I know a couple of American special forces use the HK 416. Some of them are converting their HK 416 to 17s. So it's basically just the
That
difference
looks,
between.
dude, that looks like an M4 knockoff.
Yeah, basically it is the same family of rifles, and when you look at what the Americans are going to switch to, the FN Scar, yeah. So it is
No, no,
essentially the same rifle.
we dropped the SCAR plat. No,
We
we
dropped the
dropped the
Scar.
SCAR platform. Yes, the
Okay.
6.7. Yeah, no, they dropped
No,
it.
no, no,
Now
no,
we're
no, no, no,
looking
no,
at
no.
the 6.8.
The FN Scar has a 5.56 variant and a 7.62 variant.
Hmm. I know the new one we were looking at was a 6.8, but the traditional, the first SCAR program that was originally going to take
Yep.
over fell out of favor. And now we have this new main battle rifle that has a supercomputer on top, and we'll see how that goes. They have a scope that automatically you hit a button, it does all the windage. So basically, it turns every rifleman into what most other countries would consider an elite sniper,
Yep.
because they're talking about putting the most advanced scope ever made, to my knowledge, on top of a rifle and giving someone the best training that money can buy. Now, when you put this in perspective, when we do that, when and if we do that, there's going to be a lot of death. Now, look at the Marine Corps. They gave them a 4X scope. They gave them an ACOG. And I think it was Fallujah. Any Marines, feel free to totally set me straight on this. But basically, they gave them just the most rudimentary scope ever, and they got so many headshots. And I believe it was the Battle of Fallujah that the enemy thought that they were executing them. They thought that they were rounding them up and committing war crimes, because our Marines are so badass, because every Marine's an expert rifleman.
I have
They
I
were
have
getting
yeah,
so many headshots
I
that,
have
we were accused of
read
cheating.
so much documentation about the Marine Corps and
Yeah.
their rifle proficiency. So in essence, with the even most basic sniper rifle, the M40, a Marine is reasonably well expected to score consistent hits at 800 meters.
Ask
So
Kennedy.
that
Oh,
is
shit.
can't.
Hey, 2 shot, got what, 3 shots off in 5 seconds, including a headshot?
Well, I don't want to talk about the controversy, but just
No, it's
referring
impressive shooting. It's not a controversy. This happened in the 60s. Look, I ain't saying the guy should have did it. I'm just saying that's impressive shooting.
No. I mean, I don't want to talk about the whole conspiracy around who did what, when, where.
Oh, no, I'm saying if you take it at face value, this Marine put some very accurate rounds on a very high value target.
And in
the most high value you could say.
You mean you have seen Full Metal Jacket where the sergeant is comparing, what do all these people have in common?
They're all Marines.
Killers? Well, they're all Marines.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Marines are effective. They should be treated better, as all of our armed forces should be treated better. As much as we use our military, they should be treated better when they come home.
Not only in the US, as I do.
Please fix the VA.
I have to say this. Among my American friends, I do have a couple, yeah, and most of them are former servicemen.
Mm-hmm.
And just to put this out there, when you look at what they are doing in civilian life, you cannot be more impressed. And there's a lot of stuff they learned in the military besides shooting, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they are not crazy gunheads, yeah. They are absolutely. Look, if they were my neighbor right here, I wouldn't have any issue with them in day-to-day business with each other.
Some of the best mechanics, some of the sharpest outside the box thinking mechanics I've ever met were fixing freaking whatever broke in Iraq that had gotten blown up. And they're like, all right, they did it by next Tuesday. Okay, let's put this here.
And again, this is something to pull back.
We hire those people. Like, bring that over here. Bring that can-do spirit over here.
So, what we said about stuff not getting fixed. You see, that is the difference between a country where people are told what to do with absolutely zero ability to say, well, no, or have any input in it to the program, and a country where a lot of it is, well, as long as you fix it, I don't care how. Yeah. So this is really in terms of how stuff is run. This is literally the two extreme points of something, or and we see which way has worked better. So especially when you look at what has advanced human society since, say, the invention of the steam engine. Yeah, let's take that. Not only that, we have been very creative at killing each other. That there's no doubt. But in terms of a thinking model, it is the enlightened Western thinking model and its ability to come back from the most atrocious outbursts that we had. I mean, look at
it's Greek logic.
Yeah, it is all this combination that has built itself into a machine that keeps running itself. And like I said, after I have been through my experience with both sides of that equation, so I know where I stand, and I know to stand, and that is why I am quite adamant about a couple of things in my life nowadays. So
you run out of gas?
I'm running out of gas, and I've just received a message. I'm invited to a sushi night.
Yeah. Where's my invite?
Well, I don't know where your invite is. It's from a sushi chain restaurant that
send a boat to bring me back to my ancestral home. I hear they make some really nice ones around Holland.
Well, I have this thing to say about Dutch ships, but I think before
I was talking Dutch yachts. Come on, fancy. Splurge on me, baby.
Ah, well, to pick up on that and to wrap things up, I heard there is not only a lot of Russian cash very cold nowadays, but a lot of super yachts going away for cheap these days.
I'll call
That's all I'm
Leonardo
gonna say.
DiCaprio.
That's all I'm gonna say here on my side as Roland, and over there,
I'm Rish. And we're
and we
off
will be back
topic.
soon.
Hey, guys, look forward to ask an American if he actually agrees with stuff. I want to make that a segment. Let's do
Spoiler,
it.
spoiler alert. I will be more radical than him. See ya.
I might have a different opinion on some things than you would assume.
We will see.
All right. Later,
And
peoples.
out.